Hello, listeners. Welcome to a special episode of Uncanny Tracks. We are covering Hickman's New Avengers issues 7 through 12. They were published together in a trade paperback. It was called New Avengers Volume 2 Infinity. We are reading the Infinity issues, but only from the Illuminati perspective. I am Bob in Cascadia. That is Matt in the Southland. Matt, how you doing this evening?
Doing pretty well, Bob. I just never realized how much I enjoy Avengers. I mean, it's cool. They're very different from the X-Men.
Well, and again, Matt, remember this painful lesson I had. You don't enjoy Avengers. You enjoy Hickman Avengers.
I enjoy
Whether you will enjoy other Avengers is a really open question.
I didn't enjoy the other Avengers we read recently. The Avengers AI was not my favorite, but I do like what Hickman is doing, and he just seems to understand the objective for his characters.
He does. And maybe down the road, we'll see if you enjoy Al Ewing Avengers or the Jed McKay Avengers.
I'd be interested in that. Going back and reading through Fantastic Four, like Jack Kirby stuff, man, it's a different world for comic books. But you see where the foundations were built for all of this stuff. I love it.
It's a big difference for me, though, because I like Hickman's FF better than almost any other FF except for Kirby's. But to me, it feels of a piece. The Hickman FF doesn't feel that dramatically different from the Mark Waid FF or the Jack Kirby FF or the Walt Simonson FF or the more recently the Dan Slott FF. But to me, Hickman Avengers just feels like no other Avengers.
So you think if I did go back and read some of the early Avengers issues from way back when, I probably would not be as impressed the same way I was when I went back and read old school Fantastic Four?
I think so. A lot of people will not say this, so this is a hot take from old Bob, Matt. I think the Lee Kirby Avengers issues are straight bad. I think the Roy Thomas, John Buscema Avengers are not good. I do want to read the Steve Englehart Avengers more. I haven't really read any of that. I want an opinion on that. But definitely most people would admit if you press them that the Lee Kirby Avengers is not good. But my take that Roy Thomas is not actually that good on Avengers and that Roger Stern is not that good on Avengers, those are the two runs besides the Englehart from the old days that everybody loves. I don't think they're good, man.
Okay. That's a hot take, Bob. I haven't read any of it, so I wouldn't be able to tell you anything. But
I don't really want to do this, but at some point we could read the Kree-Skrull War or we could read Under Siege and see what you think.
That's quite the undertaking.
We would just read Kree-Skrull Run as the famous Roy Thomas story and Under Siege as the famous Roger Stern story. We wouldn't read the whole runs. We would just read stories.
Maybe we could read a sampling.
That's what I'm saying.
We need a little sampling. I don't want to read like anything too big. Yeah. Give it a good shot.
Well, Matt, we got Hickman's New Avengers before us. For these issues, we've got Mike Deodato on art. We've talked about him before. He did, I think, 4 issues on the adjectiveless Hickman Avengers book that we talked about right before Infinity. And I mostly am fond of him for creating Artemis in the 90s, who is Wonder Woman's Azrael. But shall we plunge into issue number 7 of New Avengers Thrones?
Sure, Bob. So, in Thrones, hostility increases between Namor and T'Challa as Queen Shuri declares war against the Atlanteans. Both the Inhumans and Reed Richards are building weapons. And I just said Reed Richards like I was Bugs Bunny or something, or Elmer Fudd. I said Reed Richards.
You're building a vibranium bomb?
Yeah. That's a horrible Elmer Fudd, Bob, but that's okay.
Yeah. I watched a World War II movie last night, and so it just came out German.
Yeah, it came out very German. It's still funny.
Yeah. So we also still have Black Swan imprisoned by the Illuminati, right? And it's funny that Beast and Black Swan are bonding and teaching each other languages, while Doctor Strange is shunning Black Swan.
They all have their opinions of keeping this godlike character containment in their basement next to the scary guy. Herald of Galactus at some point. It's weird. It's not very Avengers-like.
It's very George Bush War on Terror. It's very, we've got to extraordinarily rendition these people to Guantanamo Bay.
Oh, yeah, it's totally.
We also have Namor and Black Panther continuing their jockeying and their squaring off. And we actually have Namor make a rather unexpected peace offer to the Panther. You get the sense that Black Panther maybe would take it if it were up to him, but it's not really up to him.
It's not.
Right?
He just controls the Deadland.
He doesn't control the living. That's his sister who's got the living.
Bob, do you ever feel the Black Panther copies heavily from The Lion King?
I would say no until the first movie, where the first movie is just straight up a remake of The Lion King.
Okay. Every time I enter the world of Black Panther and he's in the land of the dead, I get impressions of Scar, Mufasa, and that stuff.
On a related note, and this is skipping ahead to the end of issue 7, but the Wakanda logo that they have in these issues, man, really reminds me of the Thundercats.
Yes, it does. That's where, okay. I kept looking at it and I cannot pinpoint where I have seen something similar before.
To go ahead and pick my favorite panel from these issues, it's on 15, where Doctor Strange is having a very tense dinner with Doctor Doom and some others of the Illuminati. And he compliments Doom's cook, and then he insults Doctor Doom's face. It was just, that's a bold move, Stephen Strange. That's a bold move.
Yeah, Stephen Strange does not put up with the same kind of crap that Mr. Fantastic does.
This is true.
Speaking of that, my favorite panel, Bob, is Reed on page 20 saying he doesn't believe in violence, yet here they are building bombs. Yeah. Reed's in a weird place right now.
Well, and speaking of, this is a really weird bit of trivia. So in 20, he has that great performative contradiction, right, of preparing for war, as he says he doesn't do violence. But the page before, he's talking to Panther about beaming back to his family. And so this is the Marvel Now era, right? And so what's going on in the Marvel Now era with the Fantastic Four is the Hickman run finishes. And so Matt Fraction has the Mr. Fantastic and the four members out on a family vacation through space and time. And that's a pretty optimistic, lighthearted run. And the entire time it's happening that Reed Richards is beaming himself back to basically plan to blow up universes with the Illuminati. Matt, we keep trying and failing to record on that Matt Fraction Future Foundation comic, which is also happening at this same time. It's just funny that Ant-Man's leading the youth of the Future Foundation while Reed is off on a vacation, but also moonlighting on Earth, preparing to blow up a universe.
The moonlighting is insane, folks. When you put it all together, that this is all taking place during the same time as all these other things, it's a lot, but it's cool. That's literally the whole theme of those Fantastic Four comics, is that Reed's not taking the time away to be with his family. That's the whole thing, that he's everywhere all the time, and he wants to be.
And you have that with Batman in DC, but in this era of Marvel, you have it with Wolverine, Iron Man, and Mr. Fantastic.
Everybody, it's back then they really wanted everybody to be a workaholic. You really got to give 110%.
Yeah. Well, Matt, moving on to issue number 8, what Maximus made. What goes down there?
So, Bob, Maximus creates a dimensional portal where Black Bolt can speak. Atlantis is attacked by Wakandan forces, and the Earth is invaded by Thanos' generals, the Black Order.
Yeah. And I did just want to say, Matt, in contrast to the Avengers Infinity issues we covered last week, it's wild how sane Maximus the Mad comes off in the main series of Infinity versus how crazy he seems in these issues. The contrast is really interesting. I don't know if that's intentional or if that's just how it shook out, but it's wild.
When I read Maximus, I read him as almost like he's a character who has multiple personalities.
That's fair. Yeah.
I attribute that, and it may just be the writing, but at the same, he's supposed to be unhinged, so it makes sense. He's a crazy scientist guy.
Because you think in Infinity, I don't know where Maximus's continuity is at this point, but you get the sense he's probably on medication. He's got it under control. He's just working for his brother, right?
Right.
But in this one, you're, oh no, this guy is not under control at all. Why is Black Bolt trusting him? It's crazy.
Yeah, he's a little psycho, but Black Bolt they go through with it. And I like the idea of having this dimension where Black Bolt can speak freely. It's a dimension unto itself that no one can access. That's the whole idea is, okay, we can't destroy these things, but we can contain them. And that's part of the bigger plot of all of these things, is that it's more of, we have to contain what we're doing. We want to keep the status quo. That's the assumption.
So my favorite panel in this issue is on page 15, and it's where Black Panther is basically apologizing to Namor for the surprise attack that Shuri is going to launch on Atlantis, although it's not immediately clear that that's what he's doing, but it becomes clear that that's what he's doing, and that thing that Deodato is drawing for both Panther and Namor in this scene is really great.
Yeah, my favorite panel, Bob, is on 18. It's Namor realizing that his people are being attacked while he's in Wakanda. And the facial expression, the way it's drawn, you can tell.
We've talked about it in a prior episode on Hickman's Illuminati, Hickman's New Avengers. Namor is basically the devil in these issues, and him being this angry is a fearful thing, right?
Oh, he looks like the devil in this picture. They did everything. They've got the horns, they've got the eyes. He's scary looking.
So what goes down in issue 9, Cull Obsidian, man?
Well, Cull Obsidian, the Avengers battle the invasion, but only Wakanda is able to repel its attacker. And Atlantis submits to Thanos, and Doctor Strange is possessed by Ebony Maw.
Yeah, man, I think read the Infinity issues, the Avengers issues, and the New Avengers. You just alternated the reading order, right?
I read the order that you provided for me, which I did go back and forth, which at first I was pissed because it was jumping between different stories, and But once I read the whole thing as an entirety, I was, oh, it's all clear. Thanks, Bob.
I'd read the whole thing in order before, but for these purposes, I just read the Avengers and the Infinity issues before we recorded that episode, and then I just read the New Avengers before recording this. And when I was reading just the Avengers and the Infinity, I was very confused about why Atlantis submitted to Proxima Midnight so quickly. And it's, oh yes, these issues really clarify that because they've already been devastated by Wakanda, right?
Yeah, Wakanda has already attacked the Atlanteans, so they've already been in a battle. So then Proxima Midnight, which is my favorite panel, it's on page 23. Proxima Midnight has Namor and Andromeda kneeling before her. I don't know what she actually had to do, but I'm assuming Atlantis had already been pretty much raised over by then. So.
Also, props on remembering Andromeda's name. I would not have.
I called her Mira at first. But I'm like, no, that's not right.
That's
DC.
One. Yeah, my favorite panel was a little earlier. It's on page 16 in issue number 9, and we see Ebony Maw, who's about to possess Doctor Strange, crucifying Wong with a series of laser circles. Very, very haunting. Very cool.
Yeah.
And then I did want to ask Matt on page 21. Do you see Rachel Gray, aka Prestige, aka Phoenix? And I was just wondering, had you forgotten about the existence of Rachel Gray before seeing her in this crossover?
It is weird to see her. So is that Phoenix 2 or is that someone different?
Yeah, that's Phoenix.
That's Phoenix 2. Okay.
Eventually they stopped calling her Phoenix, and the name they eventually came up with her that I think is mostly stuck is Prestige.
Prestige. I did not know about the Prestige thing. But looking at her costume, I wouldn't have been able to tell that anyway because I'm used to her wearing that weird,
that
completely red one with the spike. Yeah. This has that same element on her jacket.
At this point in time, she's with Wolverine's X-Men at the Jean Grey School of Higher Learning.
Which surprisingly I've read, but I do not remember her. That's so weird.
She's not a major force in that book. She might be more important in one of the other books that's taking place around Astonishing X-Men, maybe.
Yeah. All the other X-Men, Beast, Armor, Iceman, they play a pretty big role.
Storm, yeah. Well, Matt, one other thing I just wanted to flag about 9 before we move to 10 is at the end we have a chart for the Black Order, which was cool. But I couldn't help but feel that would have been more useful in the main Infinity book. It doesn't actually come up that much in New Avengers, but it comes up quite a lot in the main Infinity book and the Adjectiveless Avengers book.
I'll give you an example for me, Bob. As I was reading this book, I was on my Wikipedia looking up these characters. Then I get to the end of the book and I'm like, oh.
Hickman's already built your Wikipedia for you, son. He's in your head and he's already...
Exactly. I could have just waited and then found out everything I needed to know. But yeah, he gives a very detailed explanation of all their characters and their powers from the Black Order. And like you said, some of these characters do appear in the MCU, though not as fleshed out.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes slightly different, but yeah. Well, Matt, to keep moving to number 10, Thanos Seed. What goes down in Thanos Seed?
Sounds nasty. The Illuminati gather to search for Thanos' son, Bob. His name is Thane.
Thane, Matt, like the Scottish nobility title. And your brother doesn't refer to his children as Seed?
Not really, no. It's weird.
A lost opportunity, I feel like.
My seed.
And then my seed. I did want to ask, was your favorite panel on 14 when Thanos has a sick punch on Black Dwarf, or as he'll later be renamed by the woke MCU, Cole Obsidian?
Oh, yeah, that was a really cool panel. I did like that, yeah. I'll go ahead and tell you that is my favorite for this issue.
Nice.
You guessed right, Bob. Sometimes you don't.
Sometimes I don't. And sometimes they're intentionally meant to be insulting.
Yeah. So this one may have been, but I'm not getting it.
No, it was not. It was not. It was a sick punch.
The punch he does, it's a downward punch, guys. To explain what it looks like. He comes over the dude's head and comes down on him, and it looks badass.
That's good. My favorite panel was on 23, and it's Doctor Strange hovering over a lost inhuman city in Greenland, which it's a little weird that's in Greenland because honestly, the terrain looks like it's in New Mexico. I was rereading a Willa Cather novel called The Professor's House that has a cool scene and some ruins in New Mexico, and I was thinking of that while looking at this. But it's very cool Diodato panel of Strange above this inhuman city.
So, Bob, we do find out that Thane was hiding out in this area for Inhumans when the Terrigen Mist, when Black Bolt eventually does this thing, which I think is in the next issue, correct?
Yeah, which do we want to go ahead and jump to?
In issue 11, an incursion event happens on Australia, taking the Illuminati away from the invasion of Thanos. Thanos explores the necropolis and discovers the world bombs and the prison holding Black Swan and Terox. And then the Illuminati meet in Ayla.
Yeah, Matt. And so what Thanos discovers pretty much straight up sets up your favorite panel. Do you want to go ahead and go there?
Yeah, my favorite panel is on page 21. It's Thanos beginning to light the Illuminati for their WMD stockpile and their black site prison. He sees that as something that maybe he would aspire to have one day.
Finally, these Earthlings are getting on the Thanos wavelength.
It's all about
Oh,
containment.
The other two things from issue number 11, our penultimate issue, I wanted to flag for folks. One is I just wanted to see if Matt agreed with me on this, that on page 10, we see Thanos' soldiers have their armor. And to me, it looks rather similar to Rhodey's War Machine armor. I just wanted to know if you saw that.
It kind of has that War Machine aesthetic. I can see it to some degree, but not. It's got the gray.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, Matt, do you remember what OMAC looks like from DC?
Talking about like old school OMAC, though, right? With the
Like
Mohawk, the Mohawk
Yeah.
in blue, and yeah.
Jack Kirby's OMAC from the 70s, the
Yes.
original OMAC. If you look on page 19, and this is also my favorite panel from issue number 11, but if you look at page 19, this red ex nihilo looks a lot like OMAC. And then I think my favorite panel is him tearing Ebony Maw from Doctor Strange's mind, or tearing Ebony Maw's parasites from Doctor Strange's mind. I think that's really cool.
You're absolutely right, Bob. This thing cannot be any closer to OMAC other than just not being. It's red.
Well, and it's also naked, whereas OMAC usually has like a uniform on. Do you want to know something wild about OMAC, Matt, that I think for a lot of people was fairly obvious, but I was too stupid to realize?
What is it?
OMAC is just Kirby's way of doing a future Captain America. If you look at the design of the 70s OMAC, you can really see it.
Okay. So you think the design itself just was meant to be
Yeah.
a Captain America sword? It's a super
Yeah.
soldier that could transform between being a super soldier and not a super soldier.
Yeah.
Okay, I see it.
Even the name, I tend to not think about the name. I just tend to think OMAC, but it stands for One Man Army Corps, which
Yeah.
is basically what Captain America is, right?
Is he not too almost a weird Shazam? Just he doesn't turn into a kid.
And so Kirby did early art on Captain Marvel on Shazam. Only one or two issues in the Golden Age, but he did a couple of issues of art for Captain Marvel or Shazam in the Golden Age. And then a lot of Kirby's Marvel creations have a little bit of Captain Marvel influence, especially if you think about Don Blake turning into Thor.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. I'm thinking too. We'll see. For those that don't know, OMAC, there's a satellite in space that shoots down and gives him his powers. So it's the idea that you're calling down lightning from the sky, but in this case, it's technology.
And
So-
it's the satellite or the AI is more the wizard than the wizard.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. Around Infinite Crisis, you have the reveal that Batman has created Brother Eye, and there's the OMAC Project miniseries.
The OMAC project is part of Brother Eye, and Brother Eye is a satellite that shoots the stuff down at him.
Which, Brother Eye is in the original Kirby OMAC stuff too, although it's a different, slightly different, newer version of Brother Eye.
Yeah.
But there's that. But then in the New 52, Dan DiDio co-writes with Keith Giffen a proper OMAC series that's just a revival of the Kirby
okay.
OMAC. And it's really good, man. It was one of those when they advertised it looked awful, but it's actually really good, I swear to God.
Doesn't Sasha Bordeaux become an OMAC? Is that my understanding?
That's more around the OMAC project, or maybe in the Checkmate book that comes after the OMAC project, which is a good book, and we should look at the Checkmate book in distant years to come.
Yeah. For listeners, Sasha Bordeaux was Bruce Wayne's bodyguard,
Who is in Peacemaker season 2, so he's very topical.
who is in Peacemaker season 2, she's that agent that everybody doesn't seem to like very much, I think.
Oh, they don't like her. Interesting. Okay. Well, Matt, should we wrap up on issue 12 of New Avengers?
Yes, let's look at issue 12, Bob.
That's epilogue, Matt. What goes down in epilogue?
T'Challa is disgraced by his sister for his work with Namor. Black Bolt's powers are decreased. Doctor Strange is going to lock himself in a room with a blood Bible, and Black Swan is talking about escalation.
My favorite panel in this is on page 10, and this is somewhat of a reference of a scene I also think Hickman wrote in Avengers versus X-Men, where in the arguments over Avengers versus X-Men, Black Panther, he's the head of the religion in Wakanda, in addition to being the head of state. And so as I recall, over a disagreement about policy dealing with the Phoenix, he just unilaterally divorces Storm because he's the head of the church.
Dang, Black Panther.
And we get an inversion of this where Turnabout is fair play, where the Dora Milaje, they're T'Challa's bodyguards, but originally, and T'Challa doesn't practice this, but originally they're supposed to be wives that the different tribes in Wakanda send him, right? And they're his wives.
Yes.
And so they all divorce him. And it's a neat inversion of what he did to Storm a year or two before. So the Dora Milaje divorced T'Challa, and then Namor is applauding this a couple pages on. I think that was really great.
Someone really needs to go out there and write a decent essay or something comparing the monarchies of Wakanda and the Inhumans. They're very similar if you think about it, because you've got the Dajmaral, you've got Black Bolt has all of his wives, but they don't really take them as wives per se. But it's still there. The system is still in place.
Well, and it's interesting because Hickman didn't come up with the Dora Milaje, right? Christopher Priest did that in the late 90s, early aughts. But Hickman did come up with the extra wives for the Inhumans. And I was just going to say, now, definitely the monarchy stuff way predates Hickman.
Oh, of course.
But Hickman is way interested into it. And you see him really lean into it in his portrayal of the Atlantis and Inhumans and Wakanda and also the Shi'ar.
They both also practice isolation, with the Inhumans being on the dark side of the moon and then Wakanda being hidden. Having certain resources that others don't.
Contrast that with the more Republican council structure in the X-Men books is very interesting.
Oh, man, there's going to be some really cool college courses in 2,800.
Well, Matt, what was your favorite panel from issue 12 epilogue?
Bob, it's on page 24, and it's more of just a funny type thing, but it's whatever those dumb-looking things are that the Avengers may have to face in the future. Those look like some Power Ranger villains.
Villains.
They don't need to be too afraid of these things. I don't know what that is, but it's wearing a helmet and has an eyeball. And the other one looks like some mech fighting thing that from an anime.
It almost looks like an Eternal gets an armor set or something. I didn't look at it really closely before. I think it's kind of cool, but grant what you're saying, that it teeters on the edge of silliness, right?
I've never really actually read Beowulf, but I did see the film with you.
No, you didn't. You told me about it, but I wasn't there.
We watched it in 3D in Douglasville.
I swear, Matt, maybe I was supposed to be there and something came up in Athens and I couldn't make it.
Well, maybe I just made you up. I don't know, Bob. Anyway, I swear we saw this film.
We might have been planning to do it, but I wasn't able to make it. And you definitely told me about it, but I wasn't actually there watching it.
Okay, well, let me reframe this. Okay, so I went to see that film. I never read Beowulf. And it was fine. You have the fighting and all that stuff. They fight Grendel. But then at the end, you find out that there's another bad guy. It's Grendel's mother.
Yeah.
That's what Hickman likes to do sometimes.
Yeah. You gotta have the reveal of the reveal.
It just blows my mind that oh yeah, that's the same story form. We just talk about escalation. They do it in all kinds of stuff, though. They did it in Batman. Batman Begins in the same way. It's like, oh, look, we got more coming, and it's worse than last time.
Yeah.
Like,
the crazy thing about the Avengers, the Hickman Avengers run, because it basically does have 3 crossovers to it, right?
Right.
So each one have to escalate.
And you just keep escalating, and to the point where I don't even know. But
well, Matt, when we get to Secret War, you're gonna see, oh man, in some ways it's about as escalated as a Marvel event ever could be.
I've already met God in the Marvel Universe, Bob. I've met Jack Kirby through the Fantastic Four.
Well, Matt, let me give you the chance to make a parting shot at me. So, ultimately, do you think I was right to split these New Avengers Infinity issues off in the main crossover? Because on the one hand, I don't think Infinity reads very well without these issues. And I don't think these issues read perfectly well by themselves, but I do think thematically it does make more sense to just look at the New Avengers stuff on its own, separate from the other stuff.
For the pleasure of the listeners, Bob, I think us discussing it this way is fine, because it's easier to follow when you're doing the same comic, same title, and just that plot in that book. Whereas we know, but just do keep in mind, there were crossovers, and like I said, the order in the back of the books that they show you, if you follow that, it's going to seem convoluted sometimes, but I promise you, by the time you've read the whole thing, it's all going to make sense. That's how good of a writer Hickman is. And I learned that through his Fantastic Four. Same thing. He's going to answer your questions. He's not a David Lynch who's going to leave you hanging. He'll give you the answers and then give you more stuff to think about later on.
Any thoughts on how the New Avengers book is progressing? We've now looked at 2 different episodes on it. You seem to really be hung up on how they're escalating with the black sites and the WMDs.
I prefer the New Avengers over the other book at this point, because I wanted to continue reading New Avengers, definitely. And if we weren't doing a podcast, I would keep reading New Avengers. Whereas the Adjectiveless Avengers, it's great, But that story was so epic. It's where do you go now?
The problem on the one hand is I agree with you that the New Avengers is much more interesting, partially because it has a smaller cast, and
Correct.
it's also because it's doing more novel things. Of you're seeing, I mean, to a concerning amount, how dark that Reed and Tony and Black Bolt and Steven are going. Maybe one of the weaknesses of this run, I mean, we'll see what we think when we get to it, but maybe ultimately why I think I would have to slightly prefer the FF run to this is that the New Avengers book isn't going to pay off on its own terms. It's only going to pay off in crossover with the adjectiveless Avengers.
Okay. So do you think that, I don't know how to phrase this, had Hickman not done both and just focused on, you were just focusing on New Avengers, do you think you would, that's hypothetical, but you know what I'm saying?
From what I understand this is listening to interviews with him 10 years ago and vaguely remembering them, it sounded like Marvel wanted him double shipping Avengers. And so he was going to do 25, 30, 36 issues a year anyway. And so this was just the deal he cut of, okay, if I'm going to have to do that much, then I need it to be 2 books and 2 different focuses. And eventually they'll come back together, but you got to start out with them separate, which I think under the circumstances, yeah, I don't know if he could have. Maybe in an alternate reality, it would have been cool to just see him do the New Avengers and nothing else. But I guess in this reality, he had to do both.
This is one of those really nerdy things, Bob, but I would love to have been like a fly on the wall when he was coming up with this stuff. Was he just bouncing them off people? Does he have a damn room just full of sticky notes where it's, oh, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen? Because you cannot keep all this in your head.
My man has flowcharts on flowcharts.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's probably a huge piece. He's got a room somewhere in an office or a house somewhere that he's just got flowcharts everywhere of how all this is going to run. That would actually be a question I would ask the man if I ever met him, Bob.
Yeah. The impression I've gotten from listening to word balloon interviews with Hickman and with Matt Fraction and Brian Bendis and Jeff Johns and various other peoples over the years is that I've always gotten the impression, maybe this is wrong, this is just me imagining stuff, listening off interviews 10 years ago, but I always got the impression that it sounded like the 2 best people to hear pitches from were Hickman and Grant Morrison. I think it was Mark Waid was telling a story about how when they were doing 52, Grant Morrison just turned to him, looked at him and said, "What if Skeets was evil?"
I want to be a fly on the wall in those meetings. I wouldn't say anything. I just want to hear them talk. What if we did this and this? Like, how do they get to these conclusions?
And it's even better that Morrison is saying it in a thick Scottish accent.
Right, yeah. Yeah. The creative process does create some amazing things. Their creative process has created some awesome stuff. I don't think we've had really a bad run with Hickman yet.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Well, listeners, what's coming next is it actually gets pretty straightforward. We got to take a week off, and then when we get back, we're going to do Avengers Volume 5 and New Avengers Volume 3, which mostly take place parallel. That's Avengers 24 to 28, and then New Avengers 13 to 17. So Adapt or Die and Other Worlds, Volume 5 of Avengers, Volume 3 of New Avengers. The following week, we'll do Volume 6 of Avengers and Volume 4 of New Avengers. And then we get into the next crossover, Time Runs Out, and that's going to get more confusing, and I'm not exactly sure how we'll handle that yet.
Oh, crap. Okay. The Time Runs Out sounds like, I don't know, some weird that's got to be a crossover, right?
And that's where they started collecting Avengers and New Avengers together. We might split it in 2, or we might just try to do the whole thing at once. We'll see.
Okay. Well, look forward to it, Bob.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Matt. So this has been Uncanny Treks. I'm Bob in Cascadia. That's Matt in the Southland. Join us for future episodes on the Hickman Avengers, and eventually, we promise we'll be done with this soon, and we'll do other things too. And I hope everyone listening has a great night.
Thanks for listening.